Good morning, friends. It's been a little while since we've talked, but I felt like there was something worth sharing with you today that possibly would be a blessing to you as it has been to me. I was reading through the Gospel of Mark recently, and I got to the 8th chapter. Now, in the 8th chapter, if you remember, it's one of the times we're told of the feeding of a large crowd, 4,000, it says. And after he had done that, after Jesus had done that, he and the disciples got into a boat. And he began to teach the disciples. Now, the disciples had remembered once they got in the boat that there again they had forgotten to bring food with them, and they only had one loaf of bread. And they're wondering what they're going to do. And so Jesus has been teaching them about leaven and how it affects a whole loaf. And they thought immediately, because they're thinking temporally, not kingdom wise, they thought, oh gosh, he's chiding us about not having enough bread. And we pick up in the 17th verse in chapter 8. Why do you reason because you have no bread? Do you not yet perceive nor understand? Is your heart still hardened? And he's asking them, why are you going over this in your mind? This is really not about bread. Your heart is hardened so that you're not even able to see what's been going on around you, much less remember, reflect, and then bring understanding to the situation. He says to them, having eyes you do not see, and having ears you do not hear. And do you not remember? That's a powerful question. Do you not remember? And then he goes on and he says this, when I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many baskets full of fragments did you take up? And they said to him, 12. Also, when I broke the 7 for the 4,000, how many large baskets full of fragments did you take up? They said 7. And then he says, how is it you don't understand? You see, he's asking them, don't you remember what I've already done? And then out of that, didn't it bring some understanding to you of who I am and what I'm capable of doing? They're looking for bread, still not recognizing they had the bread of life with them. I always go back to that question where he says, have I been with you so long and you still don't know who I am? That's a question worth pondering for myself. Because sometimes, you see, the enemy comes to try to make us doubt the goodness of God, the faithfulness of God, because it really is what we stand on, not our faithfulness. And so these two questions are very powerful. Do you not remember? Can't you look back and see how I've been with you? And out of that, don't you understand? I've often said, even here with you, we don't drum up faith for the future by trying to figure out what God is going to do. We come to faith by reflecting and remembering what he's already done. And then it brings understanding of what he can. There's a song and the simple chorus says, he did, he can, he will. And that's what we need to remember. God's already done things to prove himself to us. He can do anything. Nothing is impossible to him. And he will be there for us in our future. We need to reflect. We need to remember what he's already done. Now, I hear some of you saying, yeah, but you don't know what happened in my life, and it didn't all turn out the way I thought it would. Well, you know what? A lot of things don't turn out the way we thought they would. We have losses. We have grief. Just this morning, he brought to mind something that probably I've grieved many, many years, and he brought fresh understanding to me as to what he was doing in the midst of that time. It was a painful time for me. And yet today, as I saw what he did through that pain, through that breaking, through that lack of being able to figure it all out, I can see now what he was doing. Sometimes it takes time. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't. And sometimes the pain is real, and we won't know until eternity why he did it. But we still must reflect on the faithfulness of God and choose to believe he's good no matter what it looks like. It's interesting how the scriptures fit together for me. Right after this is where we see Jesus healing the blind man from Bethsaida. Now, he's been saying, don't you see? And here he comes upon a blind man. Now, you and I possibly can see, yes. However, it's as if he wants to demonstrate to them, and the Father had set up the perfect scenario. I love how it works together. So he comes upon this blind man, and the blind man He wants to see. He says he remember, this is where he spit on his eyes, and then he asked him, he says, now what do you see? And he said, I see men walking around like trees. And then he again touches him one more time, and when he does that, he could see perfectly. He touched him twice. This last year at Mo Ranch, we have a family camp, and our speaker spoke from this passage, and it was powerful. And he speaks of the fact that when we've walked with the Lord, we've been touched in such a way that we see somewhat, but we don't quite see clearly. And he needs to touch us again. And the reality is, the longer we walk with him, the more often we need him to touch us. We need to ask him, touch me again, that I might see more and more clearly. We never have perfect clarity on this side of eternity, but he is the God who is well able and wants to touch us again and again, to bring clarity perhaps in one particular area of your life, to bring clarity in such a way that you can say, now I see. I remember what you did, and now I can see what you were doing with it. We also need to ask that any place our hearts have been hardened because of past circumstances, that he would pour out the oil and the wine, the balm of Gilead, in such a way that in those places he softens our heart to receive a fresh seed on the soil of our soul, so that we are able to not only see what's immediate going on around us, but we reflect on his faithfulness, and out of that grab hold of the fact that he is the God that never changes, and he is faithful. I hope you're having a good day. I am here. It's beautiful out, and I am a grateful woman. I love the way the Lord brings some things full circle to bring understanding. Do you remember? Do you understand? Ask him for understanding. He's well able to give it, and with it the clarity you need to face your future. God bless you. Bye-bye.